She's posing as a lawyer, my brother Derek announced to the State Bar Disciplinary Committee, his tone thick with feigned concern. She never passed the bar exam. She's been defrauding clients for years. My parents sat behind him, nodding with solemn faces. My mother gripped a folder stuffed with evidence she had meticulously gathered, while my father's jaw was set in righteous anger. I sat alone at the respondents' table, hands folded, silent, waiting for the moment that would unravel every lie they had so carefully constructed. Then something unexpected happened. Judge William Harrington, the presiding officer of the panel, paused mid-sentence as he opened my case file. Color drained from his face, and recognition lit his eyes. "Counsel, we need a brief recess," he said, his voice tight. 5 minutes. The panel exchanged confused glances. My brother's smug smile wavered, just for a moment. Without waiting for anyone's consent, Judge Harrington rose abruptly, took my file, and disappeared into his chambers. The Hamiltons had always lived with high expectations. My father, Gregory Hamilton, was a thoracic surgeon at Massachusetts General. My mother, Diana, hailed from old Boston money, the kind that murmured through the gilded halls of private clubs and charity galas. My older brother Derek had followed the prescribed path, Harvard law, corporate litigation, and a partner track at a prestigious firm by 32. And then there was me, Vanessa. Criminal defense is the wrong path, my father had said when I announced my career plans during my 3rd year at Collier Law. You want to defend criminals. I defend people accused of crimes. There's a difference. To Derek's partners, there was no difference when my name was linked to murderers and drug dealers. I don't care what they think, I said. You should. We raised you to uphold the family's reputation, my father had scolded. I had graduated second in my class, passed the bar on my first try, and clerked for a federal judge. None of it mattered. I had chosen the wrong kind of law. 8 years ago, I launched Hamilton Defense Associates in a converted brownstone in Cambridge. The first 3 years were grueling. Public defender overflow cases that barely paid, court-appointed work for defendants no one else would touch. Survival meant endless coffee and relentless determination, slowly building a reputation one impossible case at a time. Meanwhile, my family observed from their Beacon Hill perch, waiting for me to fail. Still chasing ambulances. Derek would sneer at the occasional family dinner. Still helping corporations dodge accountability. I'd shoot back. By year 4, we stopped pretending to like each other. By year 6, everything shifted. I won the Morrison case, a man wrongly accused of murder, convicted on fabricated evidence by a corrupt prosecutor. The appeal lasted 18 months, and the exoneration made national headlines. Suddenly, my phone never stopped ringing. By year 7, Hamilton Defense Associates had grown to 12 attorneys. We had won 3 more wrongful conviction cases, exposed systemic prosecutorial misconduct in Suffolk County, and earned a reputation as the firm that handled the cases others wouldn't dare touch, and won them. Year 8 brought the Fitzgerald case. Marcus Fitzgerald, a black veteran and small business owner, faced securities fraud charges in a case dripping with selective prosecution. Evidence was circumstantial, the investigation suspiciously targeted, and media coverage racially coded. Every major Boston firm passed. I took it. The 6-week trial was relentless. I dismantled the prosecution's case piece by piece, traced the investigation to a competitor's complaint, and revealed how identical conduct by white executives had been ignored. My closing argument lasted 4 hours. Marcus Fitzgerald was acquitted on all counts. The Boston Globe hailed it as a masterclass in criminal defense. The National Law Journal put my photo on the cover. Legal analysts dissected my cross-examinations in continuing education seminars. Judge William Harrington, who had presided over the trial, sent me a handwritten note. In 30 years on the bench, I have never witnessed more brilliant advocacy. You've restored my faith in the adversarial system. I kept that note tucked away in my desk drawer, never realizing he had it framed on the wall of his chambers. My family, as usual, never acknowledged any of it. In their world, success in criminal defense wasn't real success. It was proof I had wasted my potential defending the wrong people. Then the ethics complaint arrived, 3 weeks ago. filed by Derek, co-signed by my parents. It claimed I had never actually passed the Massachusetts bar exam. According to their allegations, I'd been practicing law illegally for 8 years, defrauding clients and fabricating credentials. The evidence they presented was painstakingly detailed. Derek claimed he had obtained official records showing I had failed the bar exam twice and never attempted it again. My parents provided statements from supposed witnesses who allegedly heard me admit I wasn't really a lawyer. Every single piece of it, documents, statements, evidence, was completely fabricated. I called my own attorney, Patricia Aonquo, right away. She was stunned. They've manufactured fake bar records. That's not just an ethics violation, that's criminal fraud. Derek has connections at the Board of Bar Examiners. Someone must have owed him a favor. This is insane. Why would they do this? I had asked myself that over and over for weeks. The answer was ugly and simple. Because I was finally successful on my own terms. Because the Fitzgerald case had made me famous in a way they couldn't dismiss. Because my name was in the papers for something they were ashamed of. They would rather try to destroy me than accept that I had chosen a different path. That's my family. That's pathological. The disciplinary hearing was set for a Tuesday morning in September. I arrived early, wearing the same navy suit I had worn for the Fitzgerald closing argument. Patricia sat beside me, armed with boxes of documentation, official bar admission records, certificates, court transcripts, a decade of proof that I was legitimate. Derek showed up with our parents and his own attorney, a junior partner who clearly hadn't done his homework. Their entrance was staged for effect. Derek in a $3,000 suit, Mom in pearls with practice concern, Dad with his surgeon's commanding presence. None of them looked at me. I was just the problem to be eliminated. The panel consisted of 3 members, 2 senior attorneys and Judge William Harrington, presiding officer. I recognized his name and assumed he'd remember one defense attorney among the hundreds who had appeared before him. I was wrong. The proceedings began with Derek's attorney presenting the complaint. He laid out the allegations with rehearsed precision: unlicensed practice, client fraud, years of deception. The respondent has built her entire career on a lie, he declared. She has never been a licensed attorney in Massachusetts. Every case she's handled, every client she's represented, every appearance she's made has been a fraud on the legal system. My mother dabbed at her eyes. My father nodded solemnly. Derek barely masked his satisfaction. Judge Harrington opened my file, scanning the complaint documents, and then froze. His eyes shifted from the file to me, back to the file. Recognition, confusion, and finally a cold fury crossed his face. "Counsel, we'll take a brief recess," he said. What was supposed to be 5 minutes stretched to 15. Derek's confidence began to crack. His attorney whispered urgently. My parents exchanged worried glances. When Judge Harrington returned, he wasn't alone. He carried a framed document and additional files from his chambers. "Before we continue," he said, voice controlled, deliberate, "I need to address something unusual in this case." He held up the framed document. "This is the verdict form from Commonwealth versus Fitzgerald, decided in my courtroom 14 months ago. I had it framed because, in 30 years on the bench, it represents the finest example of criminal defense advocacy I have ever witnessed." He placed the frame on the table for everyone to see. The attorney who achieved that verdict is sitting right here in this room. She was the respondent in this proceeding. Derek's face drained of color. "Miss Hamilton," Judge Harrington continued, "argued that case for 6 weeks right here in my courtroom. I watched her cross-examine witnesses, challenge evidence, and deliver a closing argument that I have since used as a teaching example for law students. Are you suggesting?" He turned to Derek's attorney. "That she achieved all of this without being a licensed attorney?" "Your Honor, we have documentation." "I've seen your documentation." Judge Harrington's voice could have chilled fire itself. "I've also taken the liberty of obtaining Ms. Hamilton's official bar records directly from the Board of Bar Examiners during our recess." He opened a file. Vanessa Hamilton passed the Massachusetts bar examination in July 2016, scoring in the 97th percentile. She was admitted to the bar in October 2016. License number 687432. Her license is currently active and in good standing. He placed the official records on the table. The documents submitted with this complaint are forgeries. Poorly done ones, at that. The certificate numbers don't match the board's formatting, and the signatures are digital copies that don't align with originals from that time. Derek leapt to his feet. There must be some mistake. Sit down, Mr. Hamilton. Judge Harrington's tone brooked no argument. The only mistake in this room was made by whoever believed they could fabricate evidence and present it to a disciplinary committee that includes a judge who knows the respondent's work personally. He turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton, you co-signed this complaint. You provided supporting statements. Let me be very clear. You submitted fraudulent documents to an official disciplinary proceeding. That is a criminal offense. My mother's practiced composure fractured. We didn't know. Derek claimed he had proof. You signed sworn statements backing allegations you knew to be false about your own daughter. Whether you created the forged documents or merely endorsed them, you are complicit in this fraud. The hearing shifted from my prosecution to theirs. Judge Harrington allowed me to present my evidence, which I did methodically. 8 years of court records, verified credentials from every case I had handled, testimonials from judges, colleagues, and clients, the full documented history of a legitimate legal career. Then Patricia presented a forensic analysis of Derek's fabricated documents. The materials submitted by the complainant were created roughly 6 weeks ago, she explained, showing technical reports. Digital metadata indicates they were produced on a computer registered to Derek Hamilton's law firm. Formatting inconsistencies show someone had access to authentic bar documents but altered them incorrectly. Derek's attorney tried to interject. My client was given these documents by whom? Judge Harrington cut him off. Because if your client has an explanation for how forged documents were produced on his firm's computer, the committee would very much like to hear it. Silence. I watched my brother's career collapse in real time. Everything he had built, partnership track, prestigious firm, the Hamilton family legacy, crumbled because he couldn't endure his sister's success. This committee is dismissing the complaint against Vanessa Hamilton, Judge Harrington declared. Furthermore, we are referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of filing fraudulent documents, perjury, and conspiracy to interfere with judicial proceedings. He looked directly at Derek. Mr. Hamilton, I strongly suggest you retain criminal defense counsel. Given your apparent disregard for this area of practice, I recommend someone as capable as your sister. Though, I doubt she'll take your case. The aftermath unfolded over the next months. Derek was arrested 3 weeks after the hearing. His firm terminated him immediately. The partnership track doesn't survive federal charges of fraud and perjury. His bar license was suspended pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. My parents weren't charged, only because they cooperated completely with investigators, testifying that Derek had orchestrated the scheme and convinced them the evidence was legitimate. Still, their standing in Boston society was shattered. The Globe published a story about the well-known surgeon and socialite couple who had attempted to frame their daughter for practicing law illegally. They stopped attending charity galas, resigned from their club memberships, and became exactly what they had always feared, the subject of whispered scandal. Derek eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges, filing false documents and making false statements. He received 18 months in federal prison and permanent disbarment. The Hamilton family legacy he had fought so hard to protect ended with a convicted felon. The federal investigation moved fast. Derek's firm conducted an internal audit, which revealed he had used company resources to create the forged documents, an act that violated not only criminal law but also his partnership agreement. The senior partners issued a statement distancing themselves from his actions, calling them a profound betrayal of the firm's values and the legal profession itself. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, Derek had looked down on my work, dismissing criminal defense as ambulance chasing and low-level lawyering. Now he needed the very type of lawyer he had always mocked. His attorney reached out once, testing whether I might consider representing my own brother. Patricia answered the call. Miss Hamilton declines, she said firmly. But she recommends your client find the best criminal defense attorney he can afford. He's going to need one. Derek ended up with a competent but unremarkable defense. He couldn't afford top-tier counsel, and legal fees had already depleted his savings. Our parents, facing their own potential exposure, refused to fund his defense. The plea deal was the best he could get, 18 months in a minimum security federal prison and permanent disbarment. For a man whose identity had been built entirely around his legal career, the disbarment was arguably worse than prison. During this period, my father tried to contact me once. He showed up at my office unannounced, asking my receptionist if he could speak with me privately as family. I came out to the waiting area but didn't invite him in. Vanessa, we need to discuss. No, we don't. Your brother didn't just make mistakes. He manufactured evidence and filed fraudulent documents with a disciplinary committee to destroy my career. You co-signed the complaint. You gave sworn statements supporting his lies. We believed him when he said you believed what you wanted to believe. You've wanted me to fail since the day I chose criminal defense over corporate law. Derek just gave you a weapon. He stood in my waiting room, surrounded by clients and staff, stripped of the authority he wielded everywhere else. For the first time, I saw my father look small. Leave, I said. And don't come back. He left. He never returned. 6 months after the hearing, I received a letter from my mother. We never meant for things to go this far. Derek assured us he had legitimate concerns. We only wanted to protect the family name. I didn't respond for 2 weeks. When I finally did, I wrote 3 sentences. You tried to destroy my career with fabricated evidence. You signed sworn statements calling me a fraud. The only thing you were protecting was your own inability to accept that I succeeded on terms you didn't choose. I never heard from them again. Hamilton Defense Associates celebrated its 10th anniversary last month. We've grown to 23 attorneys, won 11 wrongful conviction cases, freed 8 innocent people from prison, and exposed corruption in 3 different prosecutors' offices. The National Law Journal named me one of the top 50 criminal defense attorneys in the country. Judge Harrington retired last year. At his farewell ceremony, he mentioned the Fitzgerald case as the highlight of his judicial career. He also joked to considerable laughter that he had once presided over a disciplinary hearing where the complainant's evidence was so poorly forged it insulted the intelligence of everyone in the room. I attended the ceremony, and afterward, he found me in the crowd. You know, it's in my study now. I'm honored, I said. Your honor, William, I'm retired, he replied, smiling. Your brother, how is he handling things? I don't know. I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since the hearing. He nodded slowly. Some families can't survive success. They'd rather destroy their own than admit they were wrong. He shook my hand. You built something remarkable, Miss Hamilton. Don't ever let anyone make you apologize for that. My daughter was born 4 months ago. Her name is Eleanor, after my grandmother, the only Hamilton who ever supported my career choice, who died 2 years before the Fitzgerald case but told me on her deathbed that she knew IED changed people's lives. I hold Eleanor in the nursery of my Cambridge townhouse, purchased with money I earned defending people everyone else had given up on. I tell her stories about justice and determination, about standing up for the truth even when powerful people try to bury it. Your grandparents, my parents, won't be part of your life, I said last night, though she's too young to understand. Your Uncle Derek is in prison. That's not punishment, it's consequence. When you try to destroy someone with lies, sometimes the truth destroys you instead. She blinked at me with those unfocused newborn eyes. You're going to do amazing things, Eleanor. And when you do, I'm going to support you. Whatever you choose, whatever path you take. That's what family means, not demanding you follow their script, but celebrating you for writing your own. I put her in her crib and watched her sleep. The weight of what might have been settled over me during these quiet moments. If the presiding judge had been anyone other than William Harrington, anyone who did not have my verdict framed on his wall, the hearing might have gone differently. Derek's forged documents might have triggered an investigation that dragged on for months. My license could have been suspended. Clients might have fled. The firm I'd spent 8 years building could have collapsed under manufactured scandal. But that didn't happen. Instead, my family walked into a disciplinary hearing expecting to finally prove I was the fraud they'd always claimed. Instead, they proved themselves. The presiding judge had my verdict framed on his wall. He knew exactly who I was before they opened their mouths. They thought they were exposing me, they were exposing themselves. Now, while Derek serves his sentence and my parents fade into the obscurity they feared most, Hamilton Defense Associates continues to grow, continues to win, and continues to prove that the only thing more powerful than family expectation is personal integrity. They wanted to disbar me. Instead, they disbarred themselves from my life. That is the only verdict that matters.